In the United States, there are more than 150 violent crimes committed every hour. At their best, crime scene investigators help put the guilty in jail. At their worst, the guilty could walk free. The margin of error is razor thin. At Penn State University, 12 forensic science students have been given the opportunity of a lifetime.
By the time you leave this course, you're going to know how to investigate a crime scene.
Dr. Robert Shaler, a pioneer in the field of DNA analysis, has designed a unique course in forensic investigation.
That is blood.
Cutting-edge technology.
Can you see it?
The latest evidence-gathering techniques.
Did you get a print?
The most realistic settings imaginable.
Oh!
These students are the future of crime scene investigation. If they don't do their homework, someone may get away with murder.
Oh my gosh, there's blood everywhere.
It was overwhelming.
There are bloody handprints.
Today, the students of Crime Scene University enter their final and most gruesome crime scene. The culmination of all their work has led up to today's lesson. For this crime scene, Dr. Shaler has set up some of the most realistic evidence that the students have seen.
Today's scene represents a new challenge for each of these teams. It'll be the first time that they're working with decomposing bodies. We're using pigs that have died from natural causes to simulate a human body. Now, the idea here is for the students to be able to take the information from the decomposing pigs, find the maggots that were working on the pigs, and try to determine how long those pigs have been there. In other words, they're looking for the post-mortem interval. So, we have this body here. This area of the woods has been investigated by investigators already. However, on the other side of the woods, no investigation has been done.
I was hoping at one point we'd get to see a real dead body, but I guess the dead pig was just as good.
I'm not exactly the most keen on seeing things like that, although it is a part of what I'm going to do for my career. Even with all the vapor rub that we had in our nose, it did not smell pleasant at all. It was not a bed of roses.
I want to show you which side you're to be on. Anything to the left of this tree is the domain of the gray team. Anything to the right of this tree is the domain of the blue team.
The crime scene has been set in duplicate, with the gray team on the left and the blue team on the right. The only information they are given comes from the police report.
A Penn State student reported that she was riding her bike on a trail in the wooded area near campus. She noticed a peculiar smell that reminded her of something dying. When she walked deeper into the woods to investigate, she came upon a decomposing body. Using her cell phone, she called the police.
The students have been called in to investigate 2 additional dead bodies to see if they are linked with the first dead body.
Okay, so the assignment is this. You're to investigate the scene, find evidence in the area that might shed light on what happened to the deceased, and give leads to who might have been the assailant. Becky is extremely allergic to poison ivy, so she's going to be working with her team from back here. So the blue team is going to be a little short-handed, so you guys are going to have to be really efficient. Aaron and Crystal are going to be the team leaders. Erin has been sort of withdrawn with respect to her other teammates. She certainly seems to know what she's doing. She's very bright. I firmly expect that she's going to be able to get this team to do what they need to do. Crystal is a loner on her team and doesn't always seem to interact that well with the team. So I was particularly interested in see how the team would react to her. All right, so you better get started.
Each team will have 3 hours to determine what happened to the deceased, develop possible leads as to who the assailant might be, and find any evidence that could explain their crime scene.
Okay, I think I'm gonna put Rick and Cassie on sketching because they did such an awesome job with the last outdoor scene. I'm a little nervous being team leader. Not really sure how it's gonna go. Hopefully, I can be a strong leader. Everybody happy? We cool?
Yep, let's go.
All right.
You could grab me the stuff like the scene log.
Yeah, I'll
and
just
the
grab them for both teams.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm a little apprehensive being team leader of an outdoor scene, but I feel comfortable in the outdoors. Hopefully that'll give me the confidence that I need to get my team together.
Deanna, why don't you get your stuff set up for photography?
All right. If you see anything, let me know. We'll mark it.
So the first thing they're going to have to do is begin to search it as if it were any crime scene.
We're just walking straight right now.
They're going to be looking for where evidence is and marking that evidence so that it doesn't get moved or destroyed.
Oh, what's... Do you see something?
I don't know. It's a folded piece of paper.
Paper! We'll mark it.
I just found a piece of folded paper. It looks like white computer paper. I don't know, it could be important.
Just do a rough walkthrough.
The outdoor scene requires a different approach to finding evidence. Probably the best methods for an outdoor search is what is known as the grid method. It can be used with a couple of people or it can be used with a large number of people, where you can have people at arm's length together like this, and you're moving along in a line. The area in this method is searched twice. So you search it in one direction, and then you turn around and you search it in the other direction. And this is probably your best chance in large areas to find everything that was there in the form of evidence.
All right, ready? Oh, God. Walk. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh. Oh!
What's ooh?
Oh, I got a note.
Stab it.
I found a note.
All right.
Here, give it a 1.
We found a note in the forest, so we're trying to find out what's on it. And in order to do that, we had to document where it was and take a photograph of it.
All right, ready?
All right, go.
Okay, you back in position, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Despite the dense foliage, both teams continue to search for any evidence that might link their crime scene to the body reported to the police.
Up, got part of the skull over here.
All right.
I found a bone.
So we've located a skull at the scene. This gives us an indication of how long our body has been present, long enough for all remains to decompose. So it's been here for a significant amount of time.
Okay.
A bone.
All right, all of us will go on the other side of Victoria and we'll go back
Step
across.
on the head.
Hey, you guys, watch where you're walking. You're stepping in a maggot trail. Because you need those maggots so you can determine your post-mortem interval. The students have to determine the post-mortem interval, basically how long has that body been out there, from the maggot studies that they do. The flies come in and they lay eggs. The eggs grow, they become maggots. The maggots eventually become flies. And so the life cycle can give us information about that scene. The idea of the maggot trail is that once the maggots have finished eating, then they're going to crawl away and go through the process of becoming an adult. And sometimes these maggots can travel pretty far, 20, 30 feet, for example.
Oh, crap. I don't want to be in the maggot trail.
You know, it's probably right where you're standing. The students have to be careful they don't ruin the maggot trail. Well, the idea here is that they have to get the maggots which have gone the furthest. If they can find out where that trail ends, they'll get the oldest maggots, and that's really what they want to do. The ones in between don't matter that much. The gray team walk through the middle of the maggot trail. If they decimated the maggots which had crawled the furthest, then they're going to get a wrong post-mortem interval.
Oh, there's one maggots over here. Ew.
That's all I have to say. Okay.
Oh, we got a big piece of.
Oh, nice.
Oh man, it's covered in maggots.
That means there's probably a trail like right through where we're walking.
Yeah, there's one. We discovered the maggot trail, and we realized that it was a lot more extensive than we thought.
With over an hour into the crime scene, the gray team marks their trail of maggots so it won't get trampled. Meanwhile, the blue team continues their search of the woods for any evidence that may solve this crime.
How you doing out there, Becky? Okay, good. Don't worry, we're enjoying the stench for you.
There's a bit of pressure, you know, we kind of feel time constraint. I'm being short team member because of Becky's poison ivy allergy.
Wait, we have to move over a little this way.
Oh, man.
There's the knife. Need a number for it.
We found a knife in the forest, stabbed into the tree, and it contained blood, so we think it might have something to do with the dead body.
That's a big knife.
That is a big knife.
Since there's 2 knives at the scene, this shows for the possibility of there being multiple killers, so we'll have to run tests and determine if there's more than one person's fingerprints on the knives.
The blue team found 2 knives. Blood on the knives, DNA from the blood is something what might give them information whose blood it is and what happened here.
The gray team is also finding success locating key pieces of evidence.
Dude, what's all that?
Whoa!
What's
Machete.
that stick? Machete?
Yep.
There's blood on it.
Up to this point, we've considered the scene a tertiary scene based on the evidence found. However, we came across a machete, which changes our theory completely.
If this outdoor scene is a dumping ground, it represents a tertiary site, which means that the secondary site is the vehicle that's used to transport the bodies to this location. The primary site is where the actual murders took place.
Now we're going around and finding all the markers that they left, all the stakes and the flags, so that when we go in to do the sketch, we'll be able to relocate all the evidence in this grid. Can I do a rough sketch of the...
Yeah, you're better at that than I am, definitely.
While Rick and Cassie work on sketching a grid for the gray team, the blue team continues their careful search of the crime scene.
Oh, there we go.
Where?
Skull.
Oh, yeah.
Where?
Up here under the prickly bush. Skull. It's a human skull.
Oh, fun. I smell another dismemberment.
Earlier this week, the students received a workshop on forensic anthropology and learned what to do when finding bones at a crime scene.
Looks like a skull.
Now, all of this soil in close proximity to the individual, you'll certainly want to screen because there might be things like earrings, and you want to make sure you have all that.
Forensic anthropologists, what they do is they'll examine bones. Their job is to help identify the person using DNA typing to help make identifications of missing people. So they're going to be able to help law enforcement protect and preserve the scene so that nothing is destroyed.
Nice. We found some bones in the forest, and these can give us a lot of information about the age or the race or the sex of the person. So it's important to preserve these pieces of evidence because they can be key to finding out what happened at the crime scene.
Are you guys collecting the evidence that...
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just starting to collect. I took pictures and now we're collecting. We can take close-ups.
Flesh to
when we go
bone.
back.
While Josh and Dina move forward with collecting evidence, the gray team finishes documenting their crime scene.
Are you guys finished with sketching?
Yeah, you guys put down a lot of flags.
They now begin to collect their entomological evidence.
Okay, I'm gonna do it now.
The important thing now is for you to understand how to collect the entomological evidence that is here. Trish?
A kill jar is basically just any old jar with ethyl acetate. All right. So basically what I'm gonna do first is just stand over the body and stand as still as I possibly can so that the insects don't all fly away, because I want to collect as many adults as I possibly can. So now I'm just gonna go in big, huge sweeping motions in a figure 8. Okay. And as you can see on the bottom of the net, there are all kinds of flies in there.
So the acetoacetate is what is absorbing in here. This is used to kill any of the specimens that we collect. So have it open, like.
Okay.
Oh. Did you get some in there? Yeah, there's some.
The students are collecting their flies, and they're doing that properly, so that looks like it's going pretty well. The problem is that they just completely forgot that people walk around where they dump the bodies, and they leave footprints. And so the students have been walking through these footprints and destroying them. So they lose any opportunity to match the shoe print of the person who was walking around to this location. It's an important mistake. It's an important piece of evidence which is lost, and this is something that both teams are doing.
When a person or animal dies, cells in the body immediately begin to break down and give off a subtle odor. Blowflies can detect the smell over a mile away. Female blowflies will land on a corpse and lay between 200 and 500 eggs. With just over an hour left, the students of Crime Scene University are collecting physical evidence. But in their haste, they are trampling over key evidence.
Problem is that the students have been walking through these footprints and destroying them. So they lose any opportunity to match the shoe print of the person who was walking around to this location.
The students are having some success collecting the entomological evidence.
Yeah, there's some things in there. They're all really, really small. Yeah. So now the vapors from the ethyl acetate are just killing our specimens. And in here, we got some little, it looks like gnats or small flies. So it'll take just a couple minutes for them to die. Now that the entomology is complete, we can take it back to the lab. We can determine the postmortem interval. The older the insects are, the longer our body has been dead.
While Victoria and Aaron wait for their specimens to expire, other members of the Gray team attempt to find the end of their maggot trail.
We are looking on the maggot trails that they have marked and see if we can find the end of them. And we're collecting the maggots that we find.
The maggot trail is important in forensic entomology to determine the post-mortem interval. In other words, how long has the body been there? Is very much dependent on how far the maggots move away from the body.
Got it.
Sweet.
There's two.
Yep.
Okay. We collected 4 maggots from the end of the maggot trail. There are about as many as we could find right there. And 2 of them we put in a vial that has ethanol in it so we can fix them and fix them in the state that they are. Pretty much the ethanol will kill them and we'll be able to look at them under a microscope.
Do you have a place on that sheet to record the temperature?
Yeah.
Do you want to measure it?
It's 84.4.
The blue team begins collecting the temperatures in the vicinity around the dead body,
83.7.
a vital procedure they learned earlier this week.
Insect development is temperature driven. So basically, the warmer it is, the faster they develop. The cooler it is, the slower they develop.
The temperature is important because these insects, their whole life cycle is based upon temperature.
If you actually put your hand here, it's really warm. The maggots generate a lot of heat just through their metabolism. So you can have maggot mass temperatures of upwards of 120, 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
All of these temperatures help us to identify the life cycle so we can then predict what the post-mortem interval is. We call them degree days. And so they need to know what the number of degree days there's been over a period of time.
I think you're just supposed to hold it like right above the body. 82.4. Underbody.
Insects live dependent on temperature, so this will tell us how long the insects were living. These can give us important evidence as to what time the body was deposited there and the time of death.
81.9.
We done with them then?
We still need to have time to pick up our steaks too, so.
Okay, we need to finish.
With only 15 minutes left to process the crime scene, both teams race to collect evidence.
Okay.
Typically, you'd want to collect anywhere from 50 to 75 live and preserved ones. But considering the advanced decomp of our little piglet here, there really isn't enough to collect that many for each. Most of the maggots have left, so we're collecting as many as possible, but it won't be anywhere close to 50.
Think that's enough?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Whoa, look at them. We got little maggots crawling up the side here.
Apparently they're not dead yet.
I'm the only one who cares about bugs.
Crystal, you want to start thinking about wrapping it up and make sure you want to collect all your steaks and all that too.
Okay.
You've collected all the evidence?
Yeah.
All right, team, I think we did a good job collecting. We got some good entomology evidence. So I think we'll wrap up here.
So what have you guys collected in the way of evidence?
We have 2 knives. We have a letter that we found.
Bones, skull. We collected a lot of evidence, and we do have decomposing bodies, but since we don't have like a police report or have eyewitness evidence, it's really frustrating because we don't know exactly how we can try to start to put our pieces together.
We're beginning to speculate that this could potentially be a homicide. We can't say anything conclusively as of right now. We're going to collect our evidence, take it back to the lab, and determine whether this was in fact a homicide.
This was a real true grit scene. It was on a hillside. It had a lot of undergrowth, plus they had the added attraction of dead bodies. There was a lot of stuff going on there.
Okay, we need to get the stuff in the van so that we can mosey on back to Whitmore.
At Whitmore Lab, the teams split up and begin calculating the PMI, post-mortem interval, by carefully studying the insects collected from the crime scene.
So you're actually going to determine your PMIs. I'm going to give you weather information, and I'm going to give you development rates for an insect. Okay.
Look at the lines within each circle right there. Look.
We had to figure out the age of the maggots to determine how long the decomposing bodies might have been there.
On the maggot's posterior, there are circles. When examined under a microscope, you see there are small lines within the circles. The amount of lines is the age of the maggot.
I see 6.
Okay.
See what I'm saying now?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, there's 6.
There's 6. Okay, yeah.
Laura and Josh looked at the maggots under a microscope and they counted a certain number of rings on them. And so then we could go from there and calculate how long the maggots had been out there, like what age they were. So we took some temperature calculations and added those together to come up with a post-mortem interval.
Establishing a time of death will allow the investigators to retrace the steps of the deceased and possibly uncover further clues as to who the assailant might be.
We determined that our postmortem interval was ranging from June 4th to June 10th. This way it kind of gives us a good broad scale.
So the 26th through the 29th?
3-day range from 3 weeks ago, I think, is a pretty fair assessment.
We came up with a range of May 26th to May 29th, and that's about 3 weeks ago.
The post-mortem interval is dependent upon the environmental conditions, and that can change from, even though bodies are very close together, there's different micro-environments that may be taking place there. So it would not be unexpected for the students to calculate 2 different PMIs or post-mortem intervals.
So far, it looks like it's a homicide. However, it's a little premature to tell. So it's gonna be different. It's gonna be hard to tell exactly how much we're gonna be able to figure out from the evidence we've collected.
Each team now is deliberating, trying to take all the pieces of evidence they have and put it together into a story that makes sense. They have to calculate the post-mortem interval. What they need to do is to tell me how long these bodies have been here so that we can begin to piece together what happened.
All right, you guys, so I think we all did a really good job. We all worked really hard on the scene. However, we still have a lot of missing links between the evidence. We have a note written by a Harold character, and it has his prints on it.
The students were able to obtain prints from the note, but cannot positively link the prints to the author of the note if they aren't on file.
We located a letter at the crime scene. It was addressed to a Jonathan, written by a Harold.
This piece of paper is dated June 12th, 2007.
The note found at the crime scene was a little confusing because it was dated after the date that we had established for the expiration of our victims.
We calculated the PMI, and we determined it to be somewhere between May 26th and May 29th. But that was written the 12th of June, which Harold apparently wrote it. I'm not really sure how we want to consider that.
The inconsistency in dates may mean that the note is not connected to the victim.
Both teams, of course, had the same note because they're processing the same scene in different locations.
It says, "Dear Jonathan, as experienced pathologists, we are all concerned with estimating the post-mortem interval.
I was heartened by our conversation last week at the annual conference.
I look forward to our next meeting, Harold."
Unable to decipher the content of the note, the teams decide to focus on the physical evidence.
The prints found on the letter directly matched the prints located on the machete.
All these prints are Harold's prints. Apparently, there's 2 people that were injured. How do you know they don't match Harold? If they don't have a known sample.
Yep. Based on the evidence, we're going to try and reconstruct our crime scene. However, the note is really throwing a wrench into the whole reconstruction process.
Oh, okay.
I'm so confused.
We don't have any information on the first body as far as how it's killed or anything.
Yeah. We got a breakthrough because we found out that the DNA on one of the knives matches the DNA of the decomposing body. This means that it is a possible murder weapon.
Could it have been killed somewhere else and sat there for a couple days and then dropped off? Say the body was killed on the 5th and then wasn't dropped off till the 12th.
The note fell out of his pocket then.
Right.
There were a lot of different theories being thrown around and shot down in there, so we're gonna have to figure out what really happened.
I don't understand what we're supposed to be figuring out.
With time running out, the students are struggling to come to any solid conclusions.
If Harold's
is
possibly the
the
assailant, then the date on there doesn't matter.
Right.
Because he could have wrote it 3 weeks after he killed the guy.
But why?
As like an alibi, not an alibi, but as some kind of...
And tucked it in the woods to try.
But why would it be there?
We can't really come up with a scenario as to what happened. There's not a whole lot of information.
Based on the fact that Harold's prints are on the machete, it's looking more so that he might be the assailant.
And not the dead one?
Right.
We came to the only conclusions we could come to. The pieces don't entirely fit together, and it's kind of confusing.
So I think we've concluded just about as much as we can for this, so.
I think that, like, if we just sit there and say, like, this is what it could be and this is what it couldn't be, but we can't necessarily say for sure that this is what it is.
Really, I don't think we can have a solid reconstruction like we've had in the past. It's a little rough this time around because Dr. Shaler could ask us anything about it, and we really don't have a whole lot to say.
I mean, the only thing we can do is present what we have to Dr. Shaler and make sure that we don't, make any assumptions and don't, go too far out on some of our ideas, because this time it's not going to be helpful. I think it's just going to hurt us, so we'll see what happens.
Blue team, you're going to follow me into the woods so that you can tell me what you think happened here. Let's go.
After processing their fingerprint, blood, and entomological evidence, the students must now present their findings to Dr. Shaler.
It was a little bit different this time. We don't really have a reconstruction that we can do.
I'm doing things a little differently this time. I'm asking them to take that information that they have, but also to let their minds wander. Be free to tell me what they think really happened here. Okay, Crystal, you're the team leader. What I'd like you to do is to, first of all, tell us what is this place, what happened here, and I want you to extrapolate beyond the forensic evidence and tell us what you think the implications of that evidence is.
We have a decomposed body, and then we have a completely decomposed skull in the same area with 2 separate knives with blood on them, one of which was confirmed to match with our decomposing body. We have the letter from a guy named Jonathan and a guy named Harold. We have nothing to say who they are or how they really fit into the situation. The date printed on the letter is June 12th, and so we weren't sure how that quite fit into everything because our initial PMI was from June 4th to June 10th.
Now, you mentioned the letter having a different date. What does that date imply to you with respect to this scene?
I don't know for sure.
What might be another explanation? Anyone? They are reluctant. It's like they have a wall around their brain. They haven't opened the doors yet. I want you guys to think out of the box. I want you to put your thinking caps on and open up your brains a little bit. You're giving me information that you found. Now I want you to extrapolate. What does this mean? How is this going to help investigators? The idea is that you just start talking and you start letting your mind go and let all possibilities come out. So the speculation is a healthy end product to this. So I want to give you guys about 30 seconds by yourself, taking this information in our conversation we've just had, and I want you to come back to me and tell me more about what you think happened here. I want you to be more explicit.
Like, he could have tried to get information about PMIs, because that letter was about PMIs.
So he would have wanted to have known, like, if he's letting the body
So then he's like, well, I'm just going to let it
decompose.
decompose here, and then I'm going to throw it in the woods, and then they'll think it's a different date.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it is the drop site, that definitely makes more sense.
Right.
Wrap it up.
Basically, we're let loose to speculate. It was really tough because we didn't have time to even collect our thoughts.
Maggot digestion gives off heat. Maggot masses can reach 56 degrees Celsius. The increased temperature speeds up the process of decay as well as the speed of the maggot's digestion, both important factors in determining the time of death. The students of Crime Scene University are presenting their findings on a crime scene where they found multiple bodies and weapons. Dr. Shaler is pushing the students to look beyond the evidence.
Very concisely, tell me a synopsis of what's going on here and how the physical evidence plays into it and what it means for future investigations.
Okay, well, we think that since the note was written about PMIs, he could have been wondering about decomposition just for his own knowledge, the person that came here to drop it, and figured that if he dropped the bodies off a little bit later, maybe it would show a different PMI because the bugs wouldn't get at it as soon to try to throw the investigators off. And that's maybe why the date doesn't match up with the date of our PMI. And we didn't find fingerprints really on the knives and things, and we didn't find Jonathan, the person the note was written to, fingerprints on the note of his, so he could have been wearing gloves during that.
Anything else?
We have a feeling that the body that was found further up on the hill and ours in our crime scene could be linked based on the decomposition being at a similar stage.
And they're beginning to move in the correct direction. They're talking about a dump site being a tertiary site, a secondary site being a vehicle that transported the bodies. They're beginning to think properly.
I think it was more of a drop site rather than the murder having been committed here. There wasn't blood under the body, and we're thinking it probably would have been preserved with the body over it. And if the body were killed somewhere else, you know, the blood would have all kind of leaked out there.
Is it so you're saying it's not a primary site?
No, it's secondary.
Could it be a tertiary site?
Yes. The transportation vehicle could be a secondary site.
Okay. Anything else? This is your chance to show off. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll see what your competitors have to say.
Thanks. Go ahead, guys.
It seemed like we were a little unorganized, feeling like we didn't have any type of scenario to come up with, so it kind of made us, I guess, take this less serious than we needed to.
All right, Aaron, you're the team leader. So just give us an overview of what this place is and what physical evidence you found and what it means.
We were kind of nervous how far we really wanted to go with any kind of speculation. We wanted to stick inside the realms of the evidence, but we're as confident as we can be.
Okay, well, we have two different remains. We have one that's in the process of decomposing, and then we found a completely skeletonized remains. The one that's in the process of decomposing, we determined the PMI to be between May 26th and May 29th. We found a letter from a Herald person that was dated June 12th. We have 3 different sources of DNA, one from the rotting corpse, one from the skeleton, and one on the machete. There was blood on a knife found in a tree, but it matched the rotting corpse.
Harold's prints on it.
Oh, the machete had Harold's prints on it. So the best we can determine is that somehow Harold might have been involved in some sort of foul play, but he's not directly linked to the rotting corpse because we couldn't get any fingerprints off of the knife in the tree, which has the rotting corpse's blood.
Okay, keep going. Expand. Think outside the box. Anyone?
We're not really sure.
It would be really unwise to try to put together any kind of reconstruction based on the evidence that we have.
All right, what I want you guys to do is to get together as a team for about 30 seconds. When you come out of your meeting, I want you to tell us exactly what this area is and what it means for law enforcement, plus expand if you can. The gray team seems more reluctant to express themselves and think more creatively. Maybe I've instilled too much in them that they're not supposed to speculate, but when I'm prodding them to, I would expect them to. They have good minds, they should be able to do this.
Find out who Jonathan
Sure,
is and maybe surveillance him and also surveillance this area for possible activity.
We have a corpse, a decomposed corpse, and then a skeleton. So there could be much.
Yeah.
You know, this is not a typical reconstruction where you can just reenact what happened because we have no idea the chain of events. We have no idea any of the sequencing. There's not much we can say about it, but I feel confident in the way we process the scene.
All right, Aaron, I want you to take all the information you have, what the implications are, and what investigative information it provides law enforcement.
Indications look like it could be a regular dump site for a serial killer or someone. So you could expand the area to see if there's more. You could also dig up a little bit to see if there's anything underneath. Also surveillance this area and keep a watch to see if anybody comes back.
Okay, anything else? You go quickly. All right, we're going to get together and discuss what both teams have given us, and then we're going to get you all back together and talk a little bit about what happened here. Okay, thanks a lot.
I feel like we did the best that we could. I feel pretty confident in what we did.
The blue team and the gray team did a really good job of investigating the scene. However, when it came time to say what they had found and what it meant and what the implications were, they sort of fell down on the job. They're not thinking like that yet. They're still in the process of learning techniques. Now they have to learn to start thinking out of the box.
Both teams have presented their version of the crime to Dr. Shaler. Now it's time to learn who came closest to what really happened.
The important information here is you determined the post-mortem interval, that you identified this as either a secondary or tertiary site. This was a little different for you. It was a different exercise in that you had to explain, and you weren't really forthcoming with that.
We did the best that we could, and whatever we found is what we found, and that's all we can say.
Based on how much information we had to work off of, we did the best we could, and we came to the only conclusions we could come to.
There's a lot of information here. No drag marks. Blood on knives. Many weapons out here. Bodies placed at different times. The skull was placed there so that you'd recognize that this has been around for a while. And then that this is a dump site, most likely of a serial killer. The purpose of the note was to let you know that there's someone perhaps doing experimentation on human bodies. So we have a dump site of a serial killer, of some rogue pathologist who is doing his own experiments, trying to determine post-mortem intervals. And he's bragging to this person that he's writing a letter to that he believes he's found something. He's not giving up a whole lot in the letter, but he's just kind of bragging to this person that he met at a conference. Both teams recognize this as a dump site. Both teams recognize this as not a primary site. Both teams mentioned that there was no blood out here. Both teams mentioned the fact that there were weapons. The blue team specifically mentioned in their deliberations that they considered the body on the hill to be part of the site. The gray team thought that maybe this should become a surveillance area in case this person isn't arrested right away, and that they also thought that the site should be expanded to be looking for other bodies and other weapons. One thing that both teams missed was the footprints. And you guys very expeditiously trampled them in to the ground.
We missed some footprints somewhere along the way. Rick and Cassie put up the perimeter and we're kind of scanning for things, but they didn't see any footprints.
So there's some lessons here. As soon as you find a dead body, you got to think post-mortem interval. You've got to think, what do I need in order to calculate a post-mortem interval? When we first went down and you were telling us what you think happened, you weren't really forthcoming. It was kind of like pulling teeth to get you guys to talk.
I think it was definitely trying to get us to think out of the box on this crime scene, but there were so many variables that it was kind of too broad to think really outside of the box. Like, the box is really small.
So we believe that both teams did a superb job
in searching the scene and finding what was there. Where you fell down was in giving us back the information. We don't believe there is a winner.
We worked real hard, and I understand why we didn't win this one, but I think that it's a little disappointing.
The important thing is that you learned a lesson.
I think that was a lesson in, you can't forget, you can't skip steps. You need to pay attention to all the details, and ultimately that's going to be what leads to your theories and your conclusions.
I hope this was an exercise that was valuable for you. So we've come to the end of the course. And this is where we begin like the second phase of things. You're at the stage now where you know the basics. You know how to investigate outdoor scenes. You know how to investigate indoor scenes. You know the proper procedures for investigating crime scenes. You know how to collect evidence. You know how to package it to preserve it. You know how to do most of the basic tests that are done in crime laboratories and by crime scene units for developing fingerprints, footprints, lifting prints. Now the next step is using your scientific abilities and your knowledge is to expand your thinking, begin to think outside of the box, begin to think creatively. And it's the creative investigator are the best investigators. That's what your task is now for the rest of your life, is to think creatively and use your science and your scientific background to propel you forward.
I think this course really opened me up to, the world of forensic science. I know that I'm going to be in forensics ultimately. I know that that's what I'm going to do with my life.
I told Dr. Shaler that if somebody could just set up crime scenes for me every day and kind of just let me go in and play, I'd be really happy.
I'm actually sad to go home. I really don't want to leave. And I've learned so much that I just kind of want to stay and continue learning.
I feel very fortunate to have had the chance to participate in this class, and I'm excited to take this information and move forward into a new chapter in my forensic science career.
These students have done a great job in showing how hard they can work, how dedicated they are to their careers, and I really believe that these students have bright futures ahead of them.